Like night and day. We have Super Showdown, which nobody cared about. Started off decent, completely fell to crap. And now we have AEW Revolution, which was the definition of just a good wrestling show that had excellent flow. Oh, but AEW has problems too, Nick. Yeah, they do, but their problems are not a laundry list of problems that WWE has, and AEW is actually making strides to better their problems, while WWE has done pretty much nothing to better any of their problems over the last 5 years. We are going to review AEW's second pay-per-view, and it was their first of the decade, and they went out with a bang. It was AEW Revolution. We had a couple of nice matches on this card, and every match felt like it was important to an extent. Not every match was a 5-star match, obviously, but the show flowed, and it was a good wrestling show, and it was something that I would recommend for most people to go back and watch if they had not seen it. Let's review AEW Revolution, shall we? Dustin Rhodes and Jake Hager. Starting off the match, Jake Hager's first match inside of AEW after being associated with the Inner Circle, so we knew damn well he wasn't losing this match. He was taking on Dustin Rhodes, who, again, this was a nice built-up feud, and we just wanted Dustin Rhodes to look good enough and hold his own in this match. He didn't have to win the match, and he didn't win the match, but he looked enough. I want to say that before I start, I have my notes on Bleacher Report, and I'm reading off of Bleacher Report, and I'm adding my own opinion into it. I usually take my own notes, but I did not do that for this show. This was an outside-of-the-ring brawl for most of the early part of this fight. We saw Dustin Rhodes targeting Jake Hager's arm, trying to get that revenge kind of just for everything that Jake Hager has done and how he slammed his arm onto that car door and how he neutralized all that. That was revenge for his pain and agony. He endured late last year. Again, we remember the AEW episode where he injured Dustin Rhodes. I was actually part of the Inner Circle's doing to get to Cody Rhodes' head, who was fighting Chris Jericho for the AEW World title at that point. The tide turned, though. Dustin Rhodes would get into control, and he worked his opponent's arm in an attempt to re-injure it. Actually, I completely lied there. Hager turned the tide and would try to injure his opponent's arm. Rhodes fought back and locked lips with Hager's wife. Jake Hager's wife was actually on the outside of the ring here. We were noted of that in the beginning when Jake Hager had come out to the ring and kissed his wife. So what happened was Dustin Rhodes approached his wife. He was getting close, and she went to strike him. He caught her arm, and he then went for a nice lip lock kiss, which was pretty interesting, if you ask me. Her name was Catalina, and for some reason, I don't know why that's in this notes, but that was noted here. Out comes back is Hager. He halted his veteran opponent's comeback. He had a big slam in the ring. It was a near fall. Rhodes answered by dropping Hager over the top rope and into the ring steps. Some stuff on the outside again. Dustin Rhodes would hit a code red, but it was a near fall. Jake Hager was not going to lose, especially at this point in time, to something like that. From there, it was just cross arm breakers in the ring by Dustin Rhodes, trying to get his submission again, focusing on that arm, because that is what Jake Hager had made a huge point of last year in the injury. Hager counted out. He then tried to flip it into an ankle lock. Rhodes countered the ankle lock and sent Hager into the referee nearly. As she was distracted, Aubrey Edwards was the referee. She is the female referee, and she was given quite an assignment tonight. I believe she had a couple of matches that she was refereeing. The distraction allowed Hager to get a nice low blow and score a submission. He put Dustin Rhodes into the submission, and Jake Hager would get the win via referee stoppage. This was a nice little match. Again, a lot of people are very questionable about matches that kick off the show, but that's kind of just how they elected to do it. Everything else kind of just fell into place here. This was a nice match. I think everything that happened in this match needed to happen. Dustin Rhodes didn't look, he didn't get squashed. Jake Hager looked good, and it was just a nice way to kick off Revolution. Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. If you want to call it a wrestling match, I guess we can, but it was a spot fest for about 2 to 3 minutes. Started before the match started, and basically what I mean is the bell didn't ring until 3 minutes after contact. Darby Allin was completely frustrated, and he saw his emotions get the best of him. He had a crashing and burning early. He jumped right through the ropes to attack Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara then had a nice 630 senton that put Allin through a table at the ringside, which was pretty insane. You would definitely have to go back and watch that. Once the match had officially began, Guevara looked to take advantage of the punishment he had dealt with Allin early. Some submission attempts that Sammy Guevara had withstood. He had a nice double top rope stomp. Allin was laying on the apron. Allin was laying on the apron, and he had a nice double rope stomp that was right onto Darby Allin. There was a lot of high spots in this match. This was really just a complete spot fest for the time that it was. A nice Spanish fly from the top rope, but he failed to put Darby Allin down for the complete 3 count. Guevara was getting very cocky and just very, you know, I can do whatever I want to do at this point. He exposed the top turnbuckle, but Allin monkey flipped him into it. That definitely looked like it had hurt. He delivered a nice flipping stunner, and he would get the win. Stunner. And Jake Hager had come out, and he completely, this was actually kind of funny. He picked up Sammy Guevara and literally dragged him to the back because it looked like Darby Allin was not done with Sammy Guevara. This was a spot fest, but the difference is that it is okay to have matches like this sometimes, as long as it's not all the time and as long as it makes sense. Every match doesn't have to be 25 minutes, and that is what I think people fail to understand, is that every match does not have to be a 5-star holy shit match for it to be a good show. So that is kind of what happened with that. Match was the tag team match of the year, and there's no other telling me otherwise. It was Kenny Omega and Hangman Page defending their AEW World Tag Team titles against the Young Bucks, and this was absolutely insane. For this match, and I'm going to try to do my best to really process this. Tensions were very high in this match. We saw a lot of different promo packages and a lot of different things that were leading to Hangman Adam Page was locked up with Matt Jackson very early in this match. It was a brief exchange, though. It ended with Page spitting on his former friend. That incensed Jackson to lead an impassionate onslaught. Hangman slowed the pace, targeted Matt's previously injured back, and tagged Omega into the bout, and in comes Kenny Omega. The cleaner continued to target the challenger's lower back. A tag to Nick changed the fortune of the challengers. The younger buck downed Page and applied a sharpshooter. Omega answered with a Kitaro Crusher to break up the submission. The Bucks teed off an Omega, Matt stopping to spit at Page in a turnabout from early in this match. Page finally tagged back into the match again. He unloaded on the challengers. He waved them all from the top rope. He had a nice top rope moonsault. I remember this vividly. Page and Matt came to blows in the center of the ring. Hangman was getting the upper hand on this exchange with him in the center of the ring. And another thing, too, that I want to mention is this match was all over the place. So whoever took these notes, God bless you, because it's very, very difficult to kind of just go over this and just see what the hell is going on here. Bucks recovered. We saw Nick blasting Omega. He had nice super kicks. They were downing Page inside of the ring and destroying for a near fall. We also saw the brothers channel the Motor City Machine Guns, which I actually like that as well. Another close 2 count. It was broken up last second by Omega. Page paid homage to Marty Scurll. He had a nice crossface chicken wing in the ring to Nick. But Matt delivered a 450 splash to break that up. The champions answered with a top rope suplex from Page and a V-trigger. Matt again broke up the pin. There were so many false finishes in this match. It was just ridiculous. I loved it, but it was amazing. Omega delivered a Tiger Driver 98 for another dramatic near fall. Not quite this time. Matt had a nice trio of suplexes onto Adam Page on the entrance ramp. From there, the Bucks delivered a Indy Taker pile driver to Page, essentially eliminating him from the match. This was, I believe, if I'm correct, this was the part where they were standing on the outside. Now, the ramps in AEW are set up much different. They were standing on the outside, and he did that springboard and brought him down. So pretty much at this point, I thought that Adam Page was dead. I think a lot of us did after we had saw this move. Inside, they're insulting and delivered a golden trigger to Page, to which the champion kicked out at 1. So now we go from all this, and now somebody's still kicking out at 1. Sensing his brother was losing his cool, Nick stopped him. Matt Jackson was all over the place here. The break-in action allowed Page to recover, though, and he prevent a Meltzer driver and a powerbomb. Nick threw a table at ringside. In the ring, the buckshot V-trigger combo failed to keep Matt down, with Omega unable to execute the maneuver because of a previously injured shoulder, which was actually, we mentioned and we made note of. Page delivered it for a near fall. Moments later, he delivered a buckshot lariat to Matt for the successful title defense after a half hour of action. This match was all over the place, and I'm sorry that the notes on this were just ridiculous because it's very hard to process this kind of match and what it was. And I also was just waking up a while ago, so I don't really know. I feel like this review is all over the place, and it's not one of my best ones. But again, it's me trying a different approach, trying the Bleacher Report approach. The only problem with the Bleacher Report approach is that you don't know the notes before you're reading them, and I don't like to look down constantly at them. But that's kind of what I have to do, at least for now. So that is that. After the match, Page again walked away from his elite brethren, Mr. Omega, but held the ropes open for his partner. So we can already see that Hangman Page and Kenny Omega are starting to plant the seeds for what was probably a potential heel turn in the future. This was an amazing match. This was a 5-star match, and this is a match that you have to go back and watch. This was just absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to see where it goes from here. A lot of people were saying they wanted to see the Young Bucks win. I didn't really see it or think that that was going to happen, but a lot of people were having that mindset and that approach. But that was not something that I had going into it. I thought that Omega and Paige had the title so new that it was just something that made sense. The next match was a little bit better than I thought, and it was for the AEW Women's World title, and it was Kris Statlander versus Nyla Rose. Now, Kris Statlander is starting to come up. Again, the AEW Women's division is sorry, and it is almost non-existent, but she's starting to come up maybe as just the next big thing. I know Nyla Rose is still your champion at this point, but I think Kris Statlander really does have a very bright future for AEW. Basically, what happened early in this match is Statlander was shaking off some early missteps to drop Rose with a knee in the midsection following a standing moonsault for 2. Rose answered by running up the entrance ramp and delivering a nice spear. This was up the entrance ramp, and I really actually like this. This spear right here was really good stuff. Super kick from Statlander allowed her to create some separation because of Nyla Rose. You know, there's so much you have to attack with her because she's so big and she's so fierce. She stopped some of her momentum. The competitor then dropped Rose to the floor and had a nice consecutive top suicida to keep the champion reeling. So Nyla Rose was a little bit shaken up at this point. She did regain control, however, and hung Statlander up on top of the rope for a nice knee drop. Statlander walked her way out of it and blew Rose a kiss, taunting the champion after a nice display of athleticism. It was a nice sequence here. Rose fought out of an attempted Big Bang Theory, and I just love the whole Kris Statlander character. It's just really great. She then had an STF. The Beast delivered a massive Beast Bomb, but the challenger shot her shoulder off the mat, evading defeat. Statlander recovered and delivered a nice brain buster to Nyla Rose. She returned to the top rope for Hurricane Rana, and I knew that this, I told my friend who was watching with me, I said this will be the end of the match right here. Rose will pick her up. Rose picked Statlander up from the top rope and hit a nice Beast Bomb to retain the AEW Women's World title. Coming off of that tag team match, there was no way in hell that they were going to one-up them, but they didn't have to. This match was good enough. It was an alright match, and it was just a match that kept going, and basically, I would say probably somewhere in the B range. The early moments of this match weren't really the most exciting, but as it picked up towards the end, it was more fun to watch. Nyla Rose retains the AEW Women's World Championship. CODY versus MJF. Probably one of the best built feuds AEW has had to offer in at least a very long time. We all know about everything happening in this match. We know about the 3 stages that CODY had to go through to get to MJF and all of this and that, but we're just going to get straight to the match. CODY came out to Downstate, who played his theme song, which was very cool and a nice thing to see. MJF stalled early. He killed the early momentum CODY had on his side following the pomp and circumstances on the entrance. Once the action officially started, CODY unleashed months of frustration on his opponent, dropping with a clothesline out of the Great Mutas playbook and followed it with an Alabama slam. So Cody Rhodes went right out of the gates here, clearly full of a bunch of adrenaline. Brandy was trying to get to Wardlow's head, who was there. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, Wardlow is MJF's manager, and Brandy vice versa with Cody Rhodes. She threw a beer into Wardlow's face, goading him right into a top rope suicida from her husband. Cody Rhodes had jumped out of the ring to hit him. The distraction, though, however, allowed MJF to recover from everything that Cody had put him through up to this point. He then took control of the bout and began to target the left arm, kind of like how Jake Hager was doing, or did, to Dustin Rhodes a long time ago. Cody eventually switched the turns again. He was slipping off of the top rope and dropping him face first onto the turnbuckle. A nice inverted suplex from the top rope downed Mr. MJF. Cody delivered a bootless disaster kick, busting MJF open on the arena floor. I don't really know if this was real blood or not. It was kind of hard to tell. It didn't really look like it was, but some people could sit here and tell you that it potentially could be. The irony, or the weird part of this, is that MJF removed the boot and bit the broken toe off his opponent in the first place. I don't know how real that was actually on that. Cody continued to pummel MJF, but the heel delivered a heat seeker. At ringside, Brandy tried a nice crossbody, but it was blocked on Wardlow, but the massive heavy caught her. Cody tried to rescue his wife with a kick, but the heel ducked and collided with Anderson. So that backfired for Cody Rhodes, because I didn't really think that Wardlow was actually going to drop Randy Rhodes. I would have been shocked if had he done that. We're back in the ring. MJM has a nice low blow as a near fall, a schoolboy roll up later. Cody's weight belt. He then took off Cody's weight belt and teased whipping the second generation superstar with it. Cody actually did this, I'm sorry. Referee Paul Turner completely stopped that. He allowed Cody to recover and delivered a vertebreaker for a 2 count. continued to unload in this match with the weight belt. At the discretion of the official paying MJF back for the 10 lashes, he eventually gets to use the weight belt he received in order to even have this match. MJF cowered at the corner. He was fighting between them, and he was on his knees, and he was hugging Cody, and he was saying, please don't do this. He was crying, doing this, doing that. But then he spit in his face, because how long would a heel really stay innocent for? That's up to you. Oh, MJF countered a third Crossroads attempt, dropped Cody with a ring-loaded fist, and scored the pinfall victory. The referee wasn't looking at this. MJF completely had his ring on his fist and completely punched Cody right in the face. MJF won this match. A lot of people were saying Cody needed to win, and it was kind of interesting how they elected to have MJF win the match. This was actually a pretty good match, and you know your tensions were high for it, and it was just an interesting match, just for a lot of what it was. The next match, you want to talk about a red hot crowd. This was normally the death spot in all television shows. Not on this one. Not on this one. Orange Cassidy and Pac. We had not seen Orange Cassidy wrestle, I don't think, in AEW. Someone said they did. For the beginning of this match, Orange Cassidy had his hands in his pockets. And to see, it's almost amazing to see what somebody can do with their hands in their pockets. Because at my job, people with their hands in their pockets don't seem to do much, but Orange Cassidy is one step ahead of everybody. This was a good match. We knew, I knew at least, that Mr. Orange Cassidy was not going to win this match. But this was really weird. This was really, really weird. This was a nice stare down in the beginning, like most Orange Cassidy matches. He did the brutal shin kicks. It was just, you know, the little back and forth kick that he kind of does. This is awesome. The crowd was loving it, marking out. As the action picked up, Cassidy actually popped the crowd. He had a good assault of offense. And while his hands remained firmly tucked into his pockets, Pac was pissed off, as he should be. He was reeling after his loss to Omega on Dynamite. He seized control of the bout. He sent freshly squeezed face first into the steel ring post and toyed with him. Pac was in complete control at this point, and he was completely unfazed by Orange Cassidy, because who can take Orange Cassidy serious in a wrestling Raw, at least at this point? Cassidy continued to smile, though. He rolled into the ring, delivered a nice top suicida, a nice crossbody, and a tornado DDT earned him a dramatic 2 count. A big lariat by Pac turned Cassidy inside out, putting an end to his comeback. However, a fired-up Cassidy came from nowhere in a Superman punch, followed with a Stundog Millionaire. As he climbed the ropes, we're thinking, can Cassidy really do this? Pac crotched him out of desperation. Pac tried for a top rope tombstone, but Cassidy countered it with a DDT, and the air raid crash resulted in a 2 count. The Lucha Bros rushed right in and out of nowhere and laid Trent out to try to help Pac. The best friends, though, Pentagon and Rey Fenix, brawled to the back, where Pac applied the Brutalizer, and we know how that goes. The Brutalizer is a very rough submission. He had the submission in the ring, and Orange Cassidy said that he tapped out. The bastard refused to break the hold, though, and he finally released him, though, after the referee literally took him off of it. Pac wins against Orange Cassidy. This was actually a fun match, and it gave us hope that we would mark out if Orange Cassidy actually came through with the win. Anyway, Pac gets the win, and now it is main event time. Jon Moxley versus Chris Jericho for the AEW World Title. It was the badass entry of Jon Moxley making his way to the ring in this. He entered from the streets of Chicago. Ahead of the arrival, though, Chris Jericho may have even had a better entrance. He had a choir singing his theme song, and then his theme hit, and out came Chris Jericho, and that was dope. He had the same jacket from which he pulled the spike that he used to injure MJF. He had the same spike to use to injure Jon Moxley's eye. Jon Moxley was still wearing his eye patch coming to this match. The fight spilled into the crowd early. Moxley bit at the stitches above the heel's left eye, and it seemed like those stitches weren't even real, because all of a sudden they just didn't exist. Jericho responded by targeting the injured right eye of his opponent, as we expected him to do. He powerbombed Moxley through a table at ringside and had firm control of this bout. To be hampered by the eye injury, unable to fend off Jericho's attack or even see clearly, even enough to do so. The ferocious competitor eventually fought his way back to the match. He continued to stomp away at Jericho. He later converted a lion tamer into a heel lock, as taught to him by UFC Randy Couture. I believe that this was something that, I remember. Chris Jericho and Randy Couture were actually friends, I believe, and that is what caused that to happen. Moxley had a paradigm shift. Santana used a loaded sock to knock him out and set up the lion salt. Chris Jericho tried for the code breaker, but Moxley countered. He tried for the walls of Jericho, but the challenger encountered once again in his own version of the submission to approval of the Chicago faithful. Hager appeared forcing the break, and Jericho capitalized with the code breaker. Moxley kicked out at 2. Walls of Jericho in the ring, and he was looking to kind of just get that submission a little bit. But obviously, Jon Moxley fought back through that pain. He made his way to the ropes, and Santana and Ortiz were continuing to talk trash, mostly from the ringside. Another interference by the Inner Circle led to Aubrey Edwards, long after it should have been, banning them from ringside. It allowed Sammy Guevara to sneak in and hit Jon Moxley with the AEW title. Somehow, someway, Jon Moxley still managed to kick out, so the crowd is really into it at this point. Punches from Jericho to Moxley. He then continued to rake the eye of Jon Moxley at this point. Dropped him right hand to the face, and knee to the face followed, and Jericho basked in the cheers of the AEW fans who were really digging him at this point. Moxley dodged an attempted Judas effect by Chris Jericho, and he had the paradigm shift down. He then removed his eye patch. This was a mark-out moment because we knew that his eye was fine, but he was still selling it at this point. He could see the entire time. Joke's on you, Jericho. Another paradigm shift gave way, and 1, 2, 3, Jon Moxley wins the AEW World title. After the match, Moxley cut a really nice promo about his career and how everybody created AEW, and this is for you, and all this and that. Jon Moxley wins the AEW World title. This was a good show. I don't know if I'll ever do Bleacher Report notes again because I feel like I was staring at the screen all the time, and I didn't have my own substance to it. I don't know, though, but we will see. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. The pleasure is always mine.